I feel now then. Hey Side, hey DDP. Right, so I was trying to work out what I fancy smoking. And I wanted to smoke some vanilla roll cake, but I've got none open at the moment. I'm going to have to open another tin. So I found a tin of vanilla flake, which I haven't smoked in a long time. Look how dark that's gone. I mean, there are some bright spots in it as well, but the dark bits have gone very dark, almost black. It crumbles very, very nicely, this stuff. Hey Bob. I had a pipe this morning. It was it's been a while since I've smoked this, so just gonna be a quick run through. This morning I smoked you know, I used to think that these Dracula series were silver, but they're not. I discovered, to my chagrin, I thought they were silver, and I thought, wow, they're great value for money. They still are, but I really like this pipe. It's got a beautiful sandblast on it, but still, it's nickel. Honeydew, I don't think I've had that tobacco. I saw, hey Papa Bear, I saw Mark, I think, smoked that today as well. Welsh piper. Rich Dark Honeydew. Who is it by? Is that also by Dan Tobacco? Or is that Garth Hogarth? Spinal injection. Jeez. Dale Piper did a review. My wife went through a whole series of that kind of stuff about 24 years ago when my daughter was born. My daughter, who just gave us another grandchild, when she was born, she was my wife went into labor literally over the kitchen sink, and as a result it pushed out one of her discs, or it prolapsed one of her discs, and she had a lot of trouble with it. She ended up having a bunch of operations on her back. She had spinal fluid leaking from her spine. She was in a bad way for a while, but thank God she's right as rain pretty much. But she was at a pretty low ebb at one stage. Thank you, Dee Dee. The grandson just had the bris yesterday. And thank God he's a very happy child. He's very calm, very placid, behaving himself. Long may that continue. So I'm currently working on a commissioned bent billiard, and I've just finished up a rusticated bent billiard, which is this one here. You're not going to be able to see it because of the lighting, too much backlighting. Hang on. No, that's not much better. There's a lot of dust around, so you'll have to excuse me. This one is available. The one I'm working on is a commission. Which is a beautiful pipe. Very, very well balanced. Will be a great clenching pipe. Nice capacity. Drilling is perfect. Quite a big bowl. That's a great pipe. And this is made in the fashion of Phil's pipes, so very, very clenchable. designed to be clenched. And nice rustication. It's the rustication that I do now. It's the easiest on my hands, but it also really looks very nice. It gives you lots of shiny edges. Yeah, really nice stem too. If you don't like stubby pipes, then it's too short, yeah. But a lot of people like these stubby pipes. I mean, it's not completely stubby, but it's quite stubby, yeah. I will give you that. A young pipe maker in the line? I don't think so, somehow. What's your perfect pipe shape, Bob? Actually, that question goes to everybody. Your perfect pipe shape and size. Straight, bent, pot, Dublin, billiard, whatever it might be. Tell me your perfect, ideal pipe. Describe it. Straight pipe for sided. Large ball, straight pipe. Bulldogs or adhesions. Quarter bent. Well, then you probably like this pipe. My mum's pipe. That's a gorgeous adhesion, quarter bent. Not even. I do lots of those. When I first started making pipes, I did a lot of adhesions. Blasted Liverpool for Nick Trapani. 3/4 inch bowl. Nice to hear from you, Nick. It is a special pipe. It means a lot to me, and I've never been one for being sentimental about pipes. About that one, which is the reason why I kept it in the end. A lot of times people think it's just a lot of spiel on my part when I say that, oh, I fancy that pipe. But it's the actual truth every single time when I make a pipe. Almost every pipe is made with myself in mind, and that's how you develop a style. But this one just had too much meaning for me, so. But I do have that amount left, so I can make one more pipe out of it. So if anybody wants to commission one, that's it. One more. Quarter bent apple for Papa Bear. Probably my favourite pipe shape to make. Apple, bent apple. It's a toss-up between a bent apple and a bent billiard. Quarter bent apple or quarter bent billiard. I probably do those more than any other shape. This, by the way, is how my workbench looks by the time I've finished the pipe. Sandpaper everywhere, and little bits of tools and things like that, and then it all gets cleared down at the end of the day, if I'm still awake by the time I get there. I fall asleep in the chair. Yeah, I get you. This is actually a pot. It's a classic sort of pot, but it's Peterson's Dracula design. Yeah, so does mine, Bob. The Angry Buddha. News of Snuff connoisseur here, but enjoy a good pipe song from time to time. Love all the beautiful pipes and been a subscriber for a while. I think it's the first time commenting. Well, welcome aboard. Which part of the world are you in? Oh, somebody's sending me hearts. Love you too. I think it's the first time I've noticed anybody sending hearts. Actually, this you're in Texas. Howdy. This vanilla flake, actually really good. I forgot how good it is, because whenever I want vanilla, I just by default I go to vanilla roll flake, but the vanilla roll flake has a little bit something extra which makes it fantastic. It's got, as Josh Pipe Rump always says, it's like a cookie dough kind of flavor in there, and I agree with him on that. But this is a more straight up flake with a vanilla flavor, but a very good vanilla flavor. And actually, it's a little bit less in your face, and actually quite desirable a lot of times, because the vanilla roll cake is a little bit too much sometimes. And I think my first tin of vanilla flake I got from James. I think he was the first person who sent that to me. I think. And it was very nice of him to do that. I used to smoke the vanilla cream, which is the sort of rough cut. Hey, Mike. My son Rafi saw this today, and he was so over the moon with it. He couldn't believe it. He said, "Can you smoke it? Can you smoke it?" So I said, "No, it hasn't been drilled." He said, "Yeah, it has. Look, it's got a hole there." He was just super impressed with it. McBaron's, yeah, it is McBaron's. I don't have a tin right here. This is already jarred up, but the ones that I had was, it's like a small square tin, but I imagine now it will be bigger round tins. I think I used to have a tin in here, but Lathe, I went through a period, I think it was around 2018, where it's all I smoked. After I got over the initial shock of how bitter and it seemed campfirey it was, and I didn't really like it. But once I started to like it, I absolutely fell in love with it. And I smoked them for about a year. And then it was a regular in my rotation together with other tobaccos once I found 9mm pipes, because other tobaccos gave me tongue bite. But once I found 9mm, I was able to smoke a whole range of tobaccos. And I smoked a mixture of Latakia, aromatics, and Virginias, vapors. But in the past couple of years, I've pretty much been on just Virginias or vapors, and mixed in with a bit of aromatics. I hardly ever smoke Latakias. This year, I've maybe smoked a Latakia maybe half a dozen times. Butter, I would simply tell you, Boswell Pipes, Northwoods, a fantastic blend. It's a little bit of a, I wouldn't say crossover necessarily, but it's kind of a crossover. It's got a bit of an aromatic-y kind of flavor. Some people say there's some vanilla in there. Officially there isn't, but it's a lovely tobacco. Try Boswell Pipes, which is in Chambersburg, and in somewhere else, I forget. They've got 2 branches now, but Northwoods is their own blend. Try it out. Yes, DDP. I still am a big fan of it. If I smoke an Latakia blend, that's most likely what it will be. But I just don't smoke Latakia that much anymore. And you know, these things change, your palate changes. Maybe next year that's all I'll be smoking, who knows. Yeah, try it out. It's not expensive. It's readily available. It's not a unicorn blend. You can get it whenever you want. And I just recommend you to get a 2-ounce sampler to start with, see if you like it. You can also try, which is a little bit lighter, which is the, oh, what's it called? Is it Country Englishman, is it called? Countryside it's called. It's called Boswell's Countryside. That one's a slightly lighter English. Perfection is, it never did it for me, to be honest, but it's all a matter of personal taste. So we'll move over to the lathe in a minute. If you can get special Latakia flake, it is very nice. But that's the unicorn blend. That's going to be hard to get. 1820 flake is very nice. This has got a nice retrohale too. It's really good. I couldn't decide if I was going to smoke a pipe or a cigar this evening, but yeah, tried this out. Really enjoying it. I don't think I've ever tried a Latakia snuff. I only use one snuff, which is Pushall's snuff. What is it called? I've got a box of the stuff somewhere here. Can't find it. Anyway, it's the light blue boxes, the Pushall light blue boxes. Can't remember what it's called. But that's my favourite. I've tried lots of other ones, but I always come back to that, so I don't even bother trying any others anymore. JBR. I'm always, somebody recommends it, I'll give it a go. Although, as I say, I'm not really on the lookout for snuff, but Lecture Prise, yeah, that's the one. Thank you, DDP. JBR Red. Not sure you can buy it here in the UK. Mr. Snuff UK. Looks like you can. Yeah, Alex. Where is Mr. Snuff based? Is it not a UK? I can see it on Mr. Snuff's website. Toke. JBR Red, $6.99. Wow, it's quite a bit cheaper than Mr. Snuff. No PayPal. Oh well, I'll have a look at that later on. Isle of Man, cool. I think one of my sons has used Hedges Snuff. I remember as kids we used to go to a corner shop, a real old English corner shop. There was one maybe a few hundred yards from my school, and it was literally a corner shop. It was on the corner, and it was like you know the British comedy program called Are You Being Served? Exactly like that. And two guys, brothers actually, two old bachelors, and they had in the back of the shop they had a barber's, very traditional English traditional shop, and used to go into the shop. I can still remember it to this day. I was only a kid. I mean, went to that school till I was 11 years old. Walk into the shop. On the left-hand side, there was a chest freezer with lots of ice lollies and ice pops and stuff like that. And then you had a right angle of counters. And I always found it interesting because the counters was stacked up so high you couldn't actually see them, and they had to stand on platforms in order to be seen above the sort of display cabinet. It was like a glass display cabinet. And in my mind's eye, what I can see is the scales. They used to weigh up. They used to have these big jars of sweets, boiled sweets, typical again for the English, the old English newsagent or corner shop. You don't, nowadays, if you see that, it's kind of a sort of a novelty kind of thing. It's a hark back, it's a throwback to old times. But in those days, that was the standard. You go into the shop, lots of jars, big jars of sweets. Could have been Avery scales, I don't remember. But literally rows and rows and rows of sweets. And the cigarettes, of course. Lots of cigarettes. I don't remember pipes. Obviously, I wasn't looking out for them at the time, but and walking into that shop, it had such a familiar smell. Every single time you walked into that shop, it was just beautiful. I used to love walking into that shop. I don't recall if any of the gentlemen smoked. I don't remember that. I don't think they did. The Avery scales, those are the ones with like the triangle, with a rounded top and a triangle sort of thing with the scales at the top. I think it was one of those. Anyway, so they used to sell snuff, and we used to buy, or we used to get somebody else to buy. I'm not sure if there was that restrictions that much in those days, and maybe we could buy it, I don't remember. But we used to buy Benson and Hedges, I think it was called, number 99. I think that was one of the most popular blends that you could buy. So maybe if you're a snuff aficionado, angry, then maybe you recognize it. They were in a small, very small blue square box. I think it had a red box design on the top of it, and it said number 99 on it. And I think it was plastic, the box, and you just literally just lifted off the lid. Those are memories. In those days also, I remember going to the barber. Nowadays you either get a comb and scissors or a comb and a machine. I remember going to a barber's, really old, not that one, but a different one where we used to go. It was probably cheaper because my dad didn't really have much money in those days, and he used to use clippers. So they had this machine which would have the same edge as a shaver would have, as a trimmer would have, you know, that razor edge kind of thing. So it would have that edge, but it would be done by hand. So you'd have tongs over here, and they would literally do that, and they would be doing that all over your head and doing these tongs all the time. And if they didn't do it particularly fast, it would catch your hair and it would pull your hair and it would kill. I still remember that. I hated getting a haircut there because they didn't have any up-to-date machinery, and they probably weren't skilled enough to be able to do it properly with a comb and scissors. So it was torture. Those days we had to put up with a fair bit of that, but you know, with all the lack of modern technology in those days, or at least what we called modern technology in those days, it was probably called modern technology because it was modern then. But somehow or other, we always look back fondly on those days, most of us anyway. Even though I didn't particularly enjoy going to school, at least not in the lower years. It was a bit brutal in those days. Lots of corporal punishment. I've sort of told stories of my schooling. There was one particular time when there was one teacher who was He was an interesting fellow. He actually gave me a very good grounding in English, actually. But some of them were really quite brutal. I mean, there was one particular teacher, a very rotund gentleman, three-piece suit, Paris tweed probably. Very, again, a very... XJ, haven't seen you in ages. Alright, Bob, have a good one. And he taught me how to write. And you'd have these exercise books with 3 lines. And you had the central part of the letter in the middle, then the up bit, like an F has a high bit, or a G which has a low bit, which went into the other lines. And if you didn't do it neatly, he would take the blackboard duster, which was a thick piece of wood with a sponge or a thing on the other side. It wasn't a sponge, it was some kind of hair, felt or something like that. But he would turn it over, take that thing, and he would either rap you on your knuckles with it, or he would actually knock you on your head with it. But he still, despite his brutality, he still taught me how to write. In those days, it worked because you had no choice but to do your job, because if you didn't, you'd get hit. Nowadays, teachers don't have that ability, so I'm not saying they should, but because they don't have that ability, teaching is a lot harder. So there was another teacher, who was an English teacher, who I actually liked. He was a nice fellow. But one time I must have annoyed him, did something, I don't know exactly what. And I must have been fiddling around or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, he threw the board duster at me from the front of the class. I was maybe 2nd or 3rd row in. And I was very angry at the time. I was only about 10, but I picked up the board duster and I threw it back at him. And I think that's the only time I ever showed a bit of get up and go. And I probably should have got into a lot of trouble over that, but he probably realised that he shouldn't have thrown it in the first place. I don't think I ever got into major trouble over that. The belt we used to get from the principal actually. He had a tier system of punishment. So if you were naughty but not terribly naughty, you had to bend over and he'd whack you on the backside with his hand. But if you were super naughty, then he would take off his belt, and you'd either get 3 of the best or 6 of the best, depending again on the gravity of your sin. And if you're particularly squirmy, he would grab your head and lock your head between his legs. Not in that kind of way, but he would use it as a vice to lock your head in position, and then he would whack you on the backside. But they had a funny kind of righteousness. I remember one time I misbehaved during lunchtime, and he told me to stay back after lunch, and I knew I was going to get at least 3 of the best. But it just so happened that it was my aunt's wedding later that day, and he was invited, and he was one of the guest speakers. And when it came to my turn to get punished, he said, "Today you get a pass. Your auntie's getting married. I'm not going to hit you on the day your auntie's getting married." And off I went. I mean, it's very possible that he planned it from the beginning and just found some excuse to get me to stay back, now that I think of it, but I don't know. Yeah, nowadays these guys would be put in prison, but in those days it was the norm. if in those days it would become illegal, they wouldn't have done it. It was just that's what they had seen as kids. They probably saw even worse. It was the norm. It was the absolute norm. Going back to my father's childhood, it was even worse. People were much less subtle in how they dealt with situations. They had just gone through a war, terrible brutalities, terrible pressure, anxiety. People didn't even know that something like an anxiety attack or a panic attack existed. They just thought people were nuts. And they just, hid them away somewhere. So most people, they dealt with it by lashing out. That's exactly what it was. Most times it was more about them dealing with their own anger issues or their own frustrations with life, rather than whatever that kid happened to have done. There was one particular kid in my school, in my grammar school, that's post 11, who had particularly bad knuckles, and our head teacher there used to rap you over the knuckles with a ruler. But if you were really bad, where's my ruler? So in those days it was a thick wooden ruler. So if you're naughty, you get smacked like that. But if you're particularly naughty, he would do it on this side, but he would do it with the thin side of the ruler like that. And that's a lot more painful than that. And he did this to one kid who had these bad knuckles, and his knuckles started to bleed. And his father came in the next day. And this boy actually was quite a bruiser himself. He used to wear, like these skinhead Dr. Martens with the steel toe caps. That kind of boy. But he's a nice kid. He's actually my plumber nowadays. If I've got a problem, he does the plumbing in my house. Really nice fellow. Hey, Tom. But yeah, this kid, his knuckles bled, and I think his father came in the next day and really gave it to the principal. I don't think it became physical, but he sorted him out. She beat you on the knuckles. What does she say about that now? Was she much older than you, Mike? She was too... Oh, she died. I'm sorry to hear that. How old was she? '52. So that makes you, 60? That's rough, man. Hey, Mark. The big 6-0. Alright, I think it's time I took you guys over to the lathe, because soon it's going to get too late for me to work on the lathe. Oliver Sidgwick, good evening. Welcome aboard. I don't think I've seen you before. Where are you based? Here in the UK or elsewhere? Thank you, Buddha. Thanks for joining. Hope to see you again soon. If you're interested in, if you enjoy lives, I'm on every Saturday night around midnight UK time. I'm just enjoying this bowl, and I know that if I put it down, I won't enjoy it when I relight it. And I'm enjoying chatting with you guys. Herefordshire. Well, we go to vacation in Herefordshire sometimes. Temu. I've been seeing their ads on my phone quite a lot. I like the look of some of the watches they show and the tools. Well, I've never used it. I've never bought. Let me know how you get on. Which logo design did you go for, Mark? Have you picked one? XJ, it's been so long I've forgotten your name. Is it David, maybe? Can't remember. Henry Weston's. Is it a savoury or a sweet cider? I'm a sweet man. I've got a sweet tooth. I just, you know me, Mark. I'm just gonna give you the best advice. There's no point pussyfooting around. So, although they're all very nice and very well designed, I like the artwork. The artwork is great on all of them, really is. But it just doesn't look very Welsh dragony to me. They just look like new creations. There's not enough dragony look to it, if you ask me. That's my opinion. Not on any of the designs. Hey, trucking. Stowford's Press. Can you only buy it up your end, or can you get it in the supermarkets? It does actually look a bit like the Firefox logo, you're right. Okay, I'll try it. I'll see if I can pick it up. What's everybody smoking tonight? I'm smoking McBaron's Vanilla Flake at the moment. And as soon as I get to the bottom of the bowl, which I'm not far off now, I'm going to head over to the lathe. Just tap out the ash. Yeah, it's almost done. Street taco carnitas. Well, it's good to have you, Track and Piper. Fourth generation 1931 pairs well with a cider. I don't think I've got the 31. I've got a couple of fourth generation tins. Some of them are really old actually, but I don't recall seeing 1931. John Aylesbury Dragonflake. I think I had one of those aged in one of my sales recently. Square pipe sides, square sides, pyramid stem. So it's kind of a panelled volcano. Is that what you're saying? You're a young man. How young are you? Just shy of 2 years. Mark, yeah, I have been busy, you're quite right. One thing and another. 21. Good on you. You are young. I do have a fair bit of tobacco left from the consignment. I was actually in touch with the consignor just today, earlier on. He was asking for an update. So I do want to do one more video. I actually recorded it before my mum passed, but it's now a bit out of date, so I haven't. I've actually uploaded it, but just not made it public. I'm going to watch it again and see if it's okay, and I might just make it public. If not, I'll record it again. And I still have to get going with all the pipes. I've got the consignment of about between 60 and 70 pipes. I've still got a bit more. Sorry if you're waiting to see the lathe work, but just enjoying the pipe really. Right, so you must be just over the border from Wales, Oliver. Well, we've been up there in Hereford. We've been to Hereford a couple of times. Really liked it there, actually. Hey, Cliff. We were in Hereford, I think, maybe twice in the last 4 years. And we were actually quite close to Hereford town, which we quite liked as well. And so we went into Wales, I think, once or twice. I think this is done now. Yeah. Yep, that's done. Right, take another slurp, as Mark would say. and then off to the lathe. Right, let's turn this around so the lens is on the outside. That's better. Alright, so at the moment this is a commissioned bent billiard, studded billiard. This is a hand cut stem which I prepared in advance. It's got an ivorite band, and I now need to drill. Actually, I'm going to come at it from this direction to go deeper in. Then I'm going to drill the draft hole. Get a fraction more. Can't go too wide because then I'll start cutting into the bowl. So that's about perfect. Right, time for the draft hole. So it's actually taped off in the right spot because it's almost identical dimensions to the previous pipe. mean, you can drill it and have a little bit of a keyhole there, but I try to avoid it if I can, as long as I'm not going to go too high up in the mortise. I want it to be central, which this is. That's perfect. Oops. Hello. 5 minutes? Is that right? Okay. Hey Phil. So this is where this pipe is up to at the moment. Nice Cumberland stem. I have a right ring. This should look stunning. Should look stunning when it's done. And this should have been this pipe, but it wasn't suitable for a smooth, so I ended up rusticating it. So this one is ebonite Cumberland, and this one is acrylic Cumberland. So you can see they're kind of the same. Cumberland is basically, it's actually brindle is the real word. Which basically means that there's two colours when they, basically this is rubber and sulphur and stuff like that mixed in together, but there's two colours mixed into that. You can get there with lots of different colours nowadays, but originally there were very few that you could select from. It was basically black and orange was this classic Cumberland, and the reason why it's called Cumberland is because the actual style of mixing of two colours is called brindled ebonite. Brindled, it's a verb, I think, which is basically something which has got multiple colours in it, multiple striations. Cumberland, as far as I know, was coined by Dunhill. Their factory used to be in Cumberland Road in E17, I think it was, in London, E17. And so they named it after that road. So I believe is the story. That's how the story goes anyway. Vulcanized rubber, yeah. The acrylic stems don't get heated when you smoke them. I mean, if you smoke it like a freight train, then maybe it would, but any material would if you smoke it like a freight train. But you do heat them up to bend them, but that's about it. But afterwards, it should be absolutely fine. No, it won't leach the plastic into the smoke. You haven't got that kind of contact. I mean, acrylic has been used for many years for pipes and without any issue at all. You're not going to get to any of those kind of temperatures where there's any kind of breakdown on a molecular level that it's going to start affecting it. So no, it's a minuscule amount of smoke anyway that's running through that. This pipe will be available. I'll probably still do a video tonight, or maybe tomorrow morning. This is going to go on the website, and really came out beautiful balance to it. That'll be a wonderful clenching pipe. And then and this one is just kind of it's a commissioned one, so it's a slightly higher level with a Cumberland stem, the ebonite Cumberland stem, and this one, all being well, will be a smooth. This one originally set out to be a smooth, but it's not now because there were some surface blemishes. Cosmetic, but still not good enough to be smooth. So I hope that this one will be. By the time they're finished, they should be almost identical in size and shape. And hopefully a happy customer. Well, should I light up another pipe? That's the question. You guys still want to chat? Or should we call it a night? Right, well, we need to decide what to smoke. Perhaps a little bit of London fog. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these little dregs of vanilla flake in there. I'm going to add some London fog. I think we will go with the tadpole. One of my favourite pipes now. Good night, Cliff. Everybody running off. CXJ. I used to think that when you have a bowl where the rim comes all the way up, there's no flat surface, it goes right to the end. I used to think that it would char a lot worse. In actual fact, it's a lot less for some reason. If I take my latest pipe, it's already quite blackened over here, and it's got a flat spot, and that flat spot is quite dark. But this, because it slopes off straight away, so the flame doesn't really get to it, and it's just the very, very edge that gets blackened. But I never actually thought of that, and I'm realizing that now. It's because there's no flat edge that the briar slopes off straight away. That's why it doesn't get black. That's interesting. You learn something new every day. Every day is a school day. A bit of a risk actually putting some vanilla flake in this, because this is not an aromatic pipe. Three pipes in one day is unusual for me these days. made this ebonite ring a little bit earlier on. This is an orange and black. It's very, very nice actually. It's like a subdued orange. It's a subtle orange. I was going to put it on this pipe, but the customer wanted white, so we went with white. So perhaps that'll go on the next pipe. I don't know, Oliver, because they were very entertaining. I mean, they knew very little about pipes, but they were very entertaining. I mean, they were discovering their journey too, I guess. And they talked the talk, but they didn't really have much depth of knowledge. But they were great. I really enjoyed them. They were entertaining, good friends. My guess is that they finished their student. It looked to me like they were in college. And perhaps they just finished their college education and went their separate ways. Who knows? Maybe they'll come back. I haven't seen anything from them. Did I put a filter in here? I did. One of my favourite stems as well. I really loved how this came out with this bit of profiling here. Just worked out very well. Gorgeous pipe. I haven't tried Red Fox now. Is that a Dan tobacco? I've seen a few guys smoking that recently. Is that a Dan tobacco or is it HU? HU. I'm not ordering anything from Europe these days, so I haven't tried it. The only stuff I'm getting from overseas is from smoking pipes, and if I order from smoking pipes, it's usually going to be all it golden sliced. Although I haven't bought that for a while either. It's been a while. I haven't done an order from smoking pipes for a while now. Thankfully, I'm not short of tobacco. I've never done a calculation on how long what I have will last me. I used to keep a database, a spreadsheet of all my tobacco, but if you've got plenty, Mark, but it's not necessary. But if you send me a little sample, I'll certainly try it. But it's not necessary, seriously. Hey Scotty, welcome aboard. This mix isn't really working. This London fog with a little touch of vanilla flake is not working because I'm losing the whole London fog flavour and I'm not really getting much of the vanilla, so it's kind of just spoiling the whole thing. But it's okay, it's smokable, but not memorable. So I always, if I'm going to mix an aromatic with a Virginia, I would mix it straight with Orly Golden Slice, because Orly Golden Slice is enough of a straight Virginia, even though it's not. It's technically a perique, a vapor, but you can use it as a filler, as a base for any blend, because it's that sort of, although it's not generic, but it is in a way. I don't know, Oliver. Pipe smoking is quite unique. mean, there are plenty of other hobbies out there, I guess, but I think that the interaction between other people is quite unique. On YouTube, anyway. You know, people who do sort of build train sets and collect stamps or whatever it might be. It's most of them are solitary hobbies, and I suppose pipe smoking is to an extent, but the interaction, the community that's kind of evolved and blossomed over the last 15 years is just, it's really something unique. It's amazing. I know some people who have stopped smoking a pipe, maybe for health reasons or for whatever reason, but they still post pictures because they want to stay part of the community. And I think that says a lot about the community. So they've never said that they've stopped smoking, but there's one particular guy who posts pictures almost every day, but he now never posts a picture of him with a pipe. So I've deduced that he stopped smoking a pipe, but he still wants to be part of it, you know, and I think that's great. How often do you spot somebody smoking a pipe, Oliver? I bet it's quite rare. Insurance implications. I hear that. I've had interesting interactions at a dentist, actually. I was at the dental hygienist a couple of years ago, and they were just going through some standard questions, and one of the questions was, do you smoke? So I said, no, I don't smoke cigarettes, but I do occasionally smoke a pipe without inhaling. Oh, in that case, I'll just write that you don't smoke. So that was quite an understanding hygienist. Perhaps I didn't need to be as honest as I would, but I err on the side of honesty as a general rule. Well, if any of you guys got any other topics that you want to talk about or any questions, then now's the time. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off. I'm very happy to stay on, but I have nothing else that I want to say, really, unless there's something that you guys want to talk about. So I'm not going to blag my way just for the sake of it. Ludlow. We used to go to Ludlow Castle quite a lot. And there's a market square just in front of the castle. And we've been there many, many times. Kind of almost know the place like the back of my hand. I've been there so many times with my family. I really like that town centre there. You've got that square where the market is, and then leading up to it, you've got a couple of cobbled, I think they're cobbled streets, you know, very narrow country kind of lanes with little shops, boutiques and stuff like that lining the streets. Absolutely love it. And I love the old buildings that you see there. A couple of years ago during a vacation we went to Ludlow Castle and they had a reenactment there, so that was very cool. And I'll tell you what, some of those guys, I mean, I don't know what it's like in America, they do a lot of reenactments there, but these guys were going at it big time. I mean, they all had armor on, you know, the traditional armor and helmets, but there was one guy I remember got really clonked on the head. The guys, you know, they've got these big swords, these heavy swords, and they were literally just clonking each other on the head. And one guy got, I don't know if he got injured, but he basically had to be checked over on the side by first aid. They really, really went at it solid. Cheers, Alex. Have a good one. All right, folks, I'm going to wish you all well. I'll say good night as well. I've thoroughly enjoyed spending time with you, as always. And next time will be, I guess, Saturday night. I mean, there'll be other videos, but I probably won't do it. But who knows, maybe I will. But certainly we'll do one, all being well, on Saturday night. Thanks very much, everybody. Catch you on the next one.